I'm on you.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started tonight. Renee, show all board members present. And you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and some of our favorite things to do is we've actually got some recognition, some board salutes tonight. So, Ms. Gilkey, if you wouldn't mind, if you could take those, I would appreciate it.
It would be my pleasure. The board salutes Utica Elementary second grade student Reese Stiles. In March, Reese raised approximately $2,000 for the St. Baldrick's Foundation and shaved her head in support of childhood cancer. St. Baldrick's Foundation is a volunteer-driven charity committed to funding research to find cures for childhood cancer. Additionally, Reese's hair will be used to create a wig for a child undergoing chemotherapy. In a big way, we salute Reese Stiles for her amazing heart and humility.
Tell you that on behalf of our whole school corporation, as a superintendent and as an entire board, I cannot even begin to tell you how proud of you we are. I can't think of a better thing that anyone could do, anyone else, than to give so much. And you have done something that's very special. And we're very fortunate to have you in our school system. I know that the family is very proud of you. I know that the whole staff at Utica Elementary is very proud of you, and I want you to know how proud we all are of what you've done. And you've taught us all a lesson that is something that will live with us for a long time. So thank you for being who you are. And this is a very small token of our thanks. It's a certificate to just congratulate you and recognize you for being such a special person. Okay? Thank you. Mom, thank you. Appreciate it very much. Very special.
And Mom, you are more than welcome to stay for this board meeting, but if you would like to leave, that is perfectly acceptable. Thanks for coming.
And family. And
family.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Any changes?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Satterley, thank you. All in favor? All right, 7-0, thank you. All right, I have, next item is the approval of the minutes from the previous meetings. We'll take those all together, the executive, regular, and special meetings. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Thank Mr. Satterley and Mr. White. All right, all in favor? All right, be 7-0, thank you. All right, public comments on agenda items. I don't believe we have any tonight, right? Okay. So we'll move on into consent agenda. We have 5 items: claims, travel, field trips, fundraisers, and personnel. Take all those together. If someone wants to break them out, Ms. Kraft? That was a motion? Thank you. All right, I have a motion. Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Questions, comments? All in favor? All right, 7-0, thank you. Mr. Satterley, would you do the honor of gifts to buildings?
Absolutely. Every board meeting we have, some of you are here every board meeting, so you hear me say every board meeting. That somebody in the community steps up and gives something for our kids. I've noticed this trip to Texas every meeting. And one of these times, my name's going to be on there to go with them, because it really sounds neat. But once again, just it's all across the district, and we like to thank the community for helping in any way they can. No dollar amount's too small. Motion to approve gifts to building.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Questions, comments? All right, all in favor? Be 7-0. Thank you. All right, moving into action items. First one is revisions to policy 4171, tobacco-free environment. This is a second reading, so it will require a vote tonight. And I think, Ms. Lewis, you're going to take us through that?
Yes, sir, and good evening. I am happy to take you through that one. Actually, to avoid redundancy and maybe to speed the process along, if you'll look at items number 1, items number 2, and items number 3, we have the first one, item number 1, policy 41714271, is actually the staff policy for a tobacco-free environment. Item number 2 is revisions to policy 5131.6. That's the students, drugs and alcohol, tobacco policy. And then item number 3 is revisions to policy 5144, pupil discipline. And in all 3 of those, we have made revisions to include language that addresses the prohibiting the use of e-cigarettes on school property, not only by staff, visitors, but also by students. And so the language that has been added into all 3 of those policies is the definition of an electronic cigarette or e-cigarette, and we're asking, it went for first reading back in March, and we're asking for the approval at this time. And I really think you could probably approve all 3 at the same time if you would prefer.
I'll move to approve action items 1, 2, and 3 in one vote.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Questions, comments?
Well, I've got a question on, I didn't think about this last time, I just thought about it. An e-cigarette, is it better for the body? Is this still bad, nicotine involved? I don't know, but what I'm getting to, if we encourage people to use e-cigarettes and had a designated area for this type, maybe we could get them off of the real thing and help everybody out. It's win-win. But I don't know the particulars in this electronic cigarette, personal vaporizer. I don't know that.
I think it's still so unknown as to what the hazards can be and might be that most recommendations now is that we try to avoid encouraging that. It's just, it could possibly be another form of an addictive situation, or it doesn't really resolve the issue, it just transplants. So our recommendation is that we would not encourage the use in any shape or fashion on our property.
Mr. Hall.
There was an article, I know Kentucky's doing a lot to prohibit the use in the Kentucky schools, and I read an article that said that the ingredients in dog food have been more studied and more known than what is currently in e-cigarettes.
Another point, Mr. Hall, that I thought of, had the same concerns, and you're right, they don't really know what these things are. And I also thought about it in another way. I don't want the teachers having to say, is that an e-cigarette over there, or has he got a real cigarette? Just seeing smoke, vapors. I just really get them. Let them go, smoke free.
There's just an article in the paper this week about the dangers of those, the health dangers. And I think they are just now beginning to see the health dangers in that particular.
Okay, we have a first and second for items 1, 2, and 3. Any further questions? If not, all in favor? Okay, be 7-0. Thank you. All right, next item is the land survey of the Parkwood property.
That's correct. And this evening, all that we are asking the board do is to approve the use of Blankenbaker and Sons for any surveys that might be needed on property if, in fact, we were to reach a satisfactory negotiating point for some transfers of lands over in the Parkwood area. It's not doing anything to approve the transfer of the lands or anything related to the property itself, other than when we get to the point that there may be some relationship established, that we would use Blankenbaker and Sons, and the cost provided to us, which is $3,535, and the survey would include, of course, the legal descriptions and all necessary documentation for the transfers of land. So the approval is just for the use of David Blankenbaker with Blankenbaker and Sons land surveyors, if there is a need to use their services at some time in the future.
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gilkey, and thank you, Mr. White, for the second. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Be 7-0. All right, thank you. Next is the King Farming Agreement.
Yes, Mr. Pavey. A number of years ago, we purchased land on Charlestown Pike, and it's serving as vacant property. But in order to avoid us having to incur the expenses to have it mowed and maintained until we decide at some point what we're going to use the property for, we have been entering into an agreement since 2003 with Mr. Tom King to farm 14 acres of that land, and it's his responsibility. I think he does corn one year and soybeans the next. He kind of rotates the crop, but he will provide us with $65 per tillable acre for the use of the land, and that is normally paid to us, I think, in November after the season has expired. So we are just requesting at this time to continue with the farming agreement for the 2014 growing season.
Move to accept.
Thank you, Ms. Satterley, and thank you, Ms. Kraft. Second. Questions, comments?
So this is a one-year contract?
Yes,
We do one-year contracts with... Okay, thank you.
Sandy, I believe we've had this for several years, too. I believe you mentioned that. I think as long as I've been on the board, we've always had this. So.
It just saves us some mowing and maintenance costs, and does a service to a community person.
Okay. All right. Further questions? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. All right. Next item is the job description for Energy Manager, HVAC Supervisor.
That's correct. And as you all know, Mr. Gutlucker will be retiring in July of this year, and so we took this as an opportunity to pull out the current job description for the Energy Manager HVAC Supervisor. We did revisions to include all duties that address the needs for the corporation, and it's not a new position. We've just tweaked the description for future recruitment efforts, and we ask that you would approve that at this time. And I want to thank Don Mullins for working on the job description. Travis Hare, I know, has been involved in reviewing it, and so we recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Second, it was reluctant seeing him leave.
Yes.
I don't know if that's an official second, but we'll take it. So.
Thank you, second. He's done a wonderful job.
Yes, he has.
I have a question.
Sure.
Since he's here until July, can we quickly hire this person so that he can have time to mentor? Because this man is award-winning. He is just really, really almost irreplaceable. So for him to be here, I think would really be helpful to us.
Yes, ma'am. Our recommendation would be, once you approve the job description, then we could go ahead and do a posting and hopefully get somebody hired in so that there could be some cross-training before he would leave. Because you are right. He's done a great service to Greater Clark and has been able to provide many, many dollars in cost savings over the years.
Okay.
He's a pretty good PE teacher, too.
All right. Any further comments? If not, all in favor? Opposed? Be 6-1. Thank you. All right, next item is the extension to the agreement for substitute services.
Thank you. As you know, we use a company called PESG. Their big company title would be Professional Education Services Group of Indiana, LLC, but we affectionately call them PESG. And we approved last year, based on the superintendent's recommendation, a one-year contract with them that actually had a provision for 3 one-year extensions in that contract. And in part, you renewed the contract last year based on them being able to provide maintain services or improve services to the district. They've been great in working with us. They had a management change after last year, which has been significant in improvement in our needs and their accessibility. We have someone that works in this building and will continue to be placed in this building that helps every day getting our sub-services in line for the benefit of all of our children. So we are recommending at this time another one-year extension to the contract for the sub-services. And like I said, as a part of this extension, they will continue to house in our administration building one of their staff persons to be available to help the HR department with last-minute staffing needs that come in. And we are very pleased with the change of management.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Discussion, comments?
We just work the maybe.
Do we ever evaluate them, like have our building administrators or central office administrators do some evaluation so we can see some numbers about our sub-service, or we're just going on, you know, they have this fill rate, they do this, do that? Could we let our building principals tell us, rate them, tell us what they think? Because they're out there on the front line. They got to get somebody in that room at 8 o'clock in the morning.
We actually have reports that are run on a monthly basis on their fill rates and where they've been successful and where there are needs. Dr. Mellon has put a highlight up on the board for you. I think 2 of our major areas that we had last year, and Dr. Mellon, correct me if I'm wrong, were our cafeteria facilities.
Yes.
And
Custodial.
and then we've been able to demonstrate an improvement in their fill rates for those and to maintain the fill rates in the other areas. So, I mean,
We make sure, you know, on a monthly basis, they provide the data to us. The one thing, too, that we've learned, in having someone housed directly in this building has been a major plus. That was a weakness in the past. But what's happened is we've been able to make some adjustments and that have led to not only greater numbers of fill rate, but we've also learned from our own patterns how we can improve our own services, like different professional development days, you know, when we are having those, and sometimes when the fill rates are impacted, sometimes it's due to our own needs to have professional development services. So we're tracking that better now as a result of the data they provide to us. And so I on a monthly basis, that is what, you know, we are tracking. The continual issue, and this has been ever since I've been in the business, is there are always going to be some circumstances in which you don't have a sub available for a certain position. So let's say you have a big day, and Mr. Hall, you know this, you have a big day where you have a big professional development situation where you have to pull some teachers out, and maybe you can't fill 100% of those positions. I think we've learned from that lesson this year, and I think we'll be better as a result. But they've really actively gone out and have sought, you know, new subs and recruited more people. Our food service rates have been improved incredibly. So I told the group that in order for them to keep our business, they needed to make sure that they made a commitment to us by having someone in the building, and they needed to improve in these areas, and they've been able to do that over time. And from a principal perspective, I think the only drawback, and this would be true for anyone, is there are times in which when you don't have 100% of your teacher spots filled, it's always going to be an inconvenience to a building. So we'll continue to strive for that, though.
To add to Tony's, or Mr. Hall's comment, if we have a sub that they've provided for us and that sub is not up to par, up to our standards, then we can request that sub not be sent to us anymore.
Oh, yes, ma'am, and we have we've done that on more than one
Okay.
occasion.
So we do
Absolutely.
have some checks and balances there that, and the principals do check on them, and other teachers can, okay, great.
And they're excellent with, I mean, as soon as we have any type of a complaint, they will get them out of our buildings, even pending an investigation. So we're very pleased with
Okay, thank you.
how they are quick to respond.
Thank you.
Well, they've hit on a couple of things. One of the, in the original contract, as you recall, I had an issue with then and still do. I appreciate that you like them in the building, and that's okay if it works great for you. But the contract stated that they would have their own place with their own shingle, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So if they're housed here, are they paying us rent?
We have not discussed that. I do know that in meeting with the president of the company a few weeks ago, his plan is to expand their business here in southern Indiana, and they've indicated securing property and a business office in the area, in the vicinity. My concern, and this came from me, I hope you would support this, is I did not want to lose out on having one of their people right at our beck and call. I didn't want to lose that person. I said that for you to open up an office somewhere else is perfectly your right, and I would respect that. But having that person in our building that we have direct access to on a daily basis, she has been tremendous. And to lose her and have her somewhere else and providing services to other people outside of Greater Clark, I wasn't willing to support that. And I told PESG that in our meeting.
Right.
So I did say we wanted, that to me was a key to the success of their operation this year. Now, if down the road we need to talk about space and rental and all that, that's something that we could definitely consider. But I just wanted to have the person here. And she actually handles herself like she's part of our staff.
That's right.
So which I
As long
like.
as she's keeping the fill rate up, and you're, of course, accountable for them,
Right.
for us, but if, as long as she's keeping the fill rate up, that was the problem we saw was no visual in the community.
Yeah.
People didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
But if it's working, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
And they did tell us at that time that they were going to have a location in this area, remember?
They did. It's in the
They
contract.
did say that.
They did. And you're right, but really, Dr. Mellon's correct. We've gotten spoiled because,
Mhm.
I mean, we're like
I don't
the great
mean she
Santa
should
Claus.
be here, I'm just saying that they had promised to have
Right.
a building here when...
Was it Charleston or in Washington when we had that meeting? Charleston.
I think their plan is to open up an operation here in the area by next school year.
That was their plan when they
That's right.
started
Yeah.
here, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Mellon, to your point, I mean, I think it's a small price to pay to have a resource here that's dedicated to Greater Clark. Now, down the road, if they're dedicated to Greater Clark and for other school systems, then it might be time to relook at that, to move them into their own facilities. But I think it sounds like a pretty good trade-off right now. So,
Thank you.
all right, any further questions? If not, all in favor? Okay, be 7-0. Thank you. All right, next item is the extend eligibility deadline for retirement severance. And I think you're still up, Ms. Lewis. It's your night, isn't it?
One of the things that we wanted to bring to your attention and ask for your permission was to extend the eligibility deadline to May 30th rather than March 1 for the $2,000 retirement severance that's in all applicable employee group contracts just through the end of the school year. It's not it's a negotiated benefit of $2,000 in the teacher's contracts, some of our fringe benefit documents, and some of our other contracts that a person gets, upon their retirement. It's not new severance monies that would be offering something that's been in the contract for a number of years. There's a March 1 deadline in the contract saying that you have to have your notification in of your retirement or your intent to retire by March 1st in order to be eligible for this. You as board members have waived that requirement in the past several years because currently, in the past when we've had risk issues, we've tried to get as many people to retire and give them as long an opportunity as they possibly can. Realizing we need a deadline on that, we've put the May 30th cutoff date in there, but we're asking you again to extend that this year. This year, the reason is not so much we're trying to encourage retirements for reduction in force needs, but there's been sweeping changes in the turf and perf eligibility requirements as far as their investment opportunities, and that's going to hit in October. I think that there are still many people that in the corporation that have turf or perf eligibility that are still trying to decide financially whether they need to retire at the time in order to retire under the rule that has the current benefit, which is appears to be a better benefit than what might be moving forward with perf and turf. So in order to benefit our employees and give them the opportunity to make their decisions looking ahead, we're asking that you would extend that deadline again.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Further questions, comments?
With a balanced calendar, wouldn't it make sense that this March 1st date go ahead and be permanently moved back?
It is, but it's a part of a contract, so we have to negotiate that. And so, we will be involved in negotiations starting in 2015, so we will certainly look at that. But your point's well taken. Yes, we do need to look at that, and it will be something we need to address.
Okay. All in favor? Be 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lewis.
Yeah.
Thank
It
you.
was a long night for you.
Well done.
So. All right, our next item is the Ivy Tech professor on loan contract for JHS.
Board, I'd like to recommend approval of the attached contract for John Herfel as a professor on loan from Ivy Tech. He serves in that capacity by teaching dual credit classes at Jeffersonville High School. Mrs. Lewis has reviewed the contract, and so at this point, I'd like to recommend approval of that contract. It's a $2,500 cost.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Any further questions, comments? All in favor? All right, be 7-0. Thank you. Looks like Dr. Dykle, you're up for landscaping and summer painting.
Oh, yeah. Since May of 2010, we've employed painters during the summer months to prepare and paint various locations within the corporation. We would like to continue that practice along with hiring employees to complete landscaping projects within the corporation. These positions will be posted internally for current staff members to be able to apply for summer work. We also plan to hire students, these are college students, to help in both endeavors. This will create a financial savings for the corporation since we won't have to hire an outside painter at their rates or a landscaper at their rates. Listed below are the costs of these positions. 2 foremen at $13 per hour times 8 hours times 40 days, $8,320. 9 painters, which are the students, at $11.50 per hour, 8 hours, 40 days, $33,120. The landscaping, they'll get $10 an hour for a cost of $19,200. So we're asking permission to continue that, to beautify our grounds.
Move to accept.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do we have further questions, comments? All right. All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. All right. Next item is the approval of the agreement for the Spyglass Group, LLC.
The administration is requesting permission to contract with the Spyglass Group, LLC to analyze our telecommunications service accounts, which include local voice, long distance, voice, data, internet, and wireless, to seek cost recovery, service elimination, and cost reduction recommendations. Spyglass will present their findings, and the cost will depend on what we accept to do. If we agree to cost recovery, Spyglass will get 50% of the recovery. On service elimination savings, they will receive 1 year savings, and on cost reduction savings, they will also receive 1 year savings. If we don't agree to any of these savings, they will receive 0 for their time. Mrs. Lewis has reviewed the attached agreement. I think this is a good idea. Periodically, we ought to look at this because we don't know what's in our bills from time to time as far as federal charges, state charges. There's things in there that they may uncover. We may be great and they may not find anything. But I think it's a shot that we ought to take for a 50% recovery or 100% for 1 year savings on elimination of services. So that's our recommendation.
So we're not paying them anything?
Not right now, no. It's based on what we accept to do, and then it'll be based on what they can find. So it's to their benefit to work real hard and find something.
Well, it's out there because I won't say which one, there's a telecommunications company. You can go to their website and put in your name if you've had them, and they owe people money because it was found. I know my name's on there. It's little, but when you got huge, it's out there. There's overcharges.
Can't remember. Did we take a first on this? I didn't think so. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Satterley.
We just jumped right into
Yeah. Thought that's what happened, but all right. All right. Thank you, Ms. Perkins, for the second. All right. Now we can do questions and comments.
Don't have any now.
Have we worked with this company before, Greater Clark?
No.
Where are they located out of?
Dan, where are you at? Louisville.
Louisville?
Across the river.
And how long of a contract is it? If they're going to get 1 year savings, how long, like the second year, we would retain the savings? And
Correct.
how long is our contract with them?
Just until they find something and we agree. And then we agree to pay them 1 year savings or eliminations, or 50% on the savings and 1 year on the elimination. So however long it takes them to look at our records and how far back they want to go, that they can legally go and recoup the money for us.
Dr. Dykle, just a question on that. Are they looking at actual usage of our lines, or are you just looking at the billing portion of it? I mean, do we have, T1 lines out there that have very little usage that might be candidates to be taken out?
To answer your question, yeah, we'll look for usage. It looks like we're using 5 months, we recommend that. They may look like 15 months here, and the volume for it, which you will make sense for it.
Okay. So, I mean, we can look at that, and if we decide, well, we want to keep that for, future use or whatever, then we're not obligated because you all have identified it to back that out.
It's what we agreed to accept.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right. Further questions? All in favor? All right. 7-0. Thank you. All right. All right, Ms. Snellenberg, looks like you're up for Title I contract services.
Typically, we don't bring quarter 4, and I kind of want to give you a heads up that we applied for Title I funding by July 1. This year, we applied for 2017. Our approval did not come until the beginning of February. So, in order for New Washington to get approved for moving forward with funding, we didn't have it until February, kind of March time. So what we tried to do was set a plan in place to begin quarter 4 that can carry into the first quarter of next year as well if needed. New Washington Elementary and Jeff High are kind of at our bottom in terms of the schools that we serve. So in order to serve Jeff High, we have to serve New Washington Elementary. Because their numbers are smaller, they don't generate enough money for a full-time FTE based on current funding. We're anticipating an increase in Title I funding that next year in that application we would put a full-time person in. But in the meantime, we're trying to serve them with contracted services. So the contracts you have before you, one would be March Simmons, who would continue the balanced literacy training that she's done with them over the last few years, and now they've not had funding for it this year until now. And then Sue Anderson and Jenna Sexton. Jenna Sexton will provide tutoring to kids identified in need, and then Sue Anderson will go in and do data analysis with the staff. We're trying to get a lot out of $35,000.
Always a challenge. All right. Motion?
So moved.
All right. Thank you. Second. Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Further questions, comments?
Amy, just for clarification, has Sandy seen the contract? Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
For standard special needs in our use the same standard contract for.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. And
The next item is we're excited to be hosting the e-learning conference again this summer, and Brett Clark has been able to procure several speakers that we're excited to have, Kyle Pate, Amber Tiemann, and Christopher Lehman, and we're using those similar contracts to what we've used in the past before with those speakers, so we're looking for approval to get that.
Move to accept.
thank you, Mr. Satterley.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Thank you. All right. Further, I was getting ready to go on comments and questions. Comments and questions?
Last year, this was an outstanding conference. I was able to attend about half of it, but it was, I talked to some teachers, and they really got a lot out of it, so kudos.
Now, can we get the young man back to speak? I mean, he's really...
Yeah. He was so...
He was. Yeah, he's probably got a long list of bookings right now.
I was going to say he was on David Letterman, but he's...
All right, all in favor? Be 7-0, thank you. All right. And looks like the last item is the 2014-15 Curtis and Lavers contract.
Board, I'm recommending the approval for the 2014-15 school year of a Curtis and Livers contract. This contract provides us with a cross-check for all three corporations within our co-op. It allows us to track and compare our special education data and count information against the Department of Education's special education count. The cost for this contract is $1,000. This contract will also help to provide us with any update on changes in the federal court process, and it will allow us to continue to run data reports in many necessary areas. And the cost of this is paid through federal special education funds.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White. All right, thank you, Mr. Hall. All right, questions, comments? All right, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. Okay, next item is reports and requests, board reports and requests. Mr. Hall, do you have anything?
I have none.
Ms. Perkins?
I have none.
Mr. Satterley?
Mr. Dyksville, just out of curiosity, when you talk about money, there is unclaimed funds in Indiana. I'll leave the name out, but somebody owes us a little bit. If you go to Indiana, unclaimed funds are under the Attorney General, and the company owes us a little bit of money. Well, it's public record. It says Waste Management Holdings, whoever they are.
We have no doubt.
Have
You'll
no
get
doubt.
it. For a little bit.
That's it.
Ms. Kraft?
These are just little information things. I'm always passing you out things, so here, have at it. Yeah, just, it helps to know a lot of really things that are going to affect education in the future, and makes a nice bookmark, like you said.
Thank you.
Mr. White?
No, thank you.
Ms. Gilkey?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, next item is public comments on non-agenda items. I believe we have two. We have Mr. Smith and Mr. Denton. And Mr. Smith, I think you're first. I'd like to just remind you of the rules for engaging the board. You should state your name and topic to be addressed, limited to 3 minutes to make your comments. And speakers are not to specifically name or identify any Greater Clark employee, board member, or agent if the subject matter of the presentation is intended to be demeaning or derogatory. The board reserves the right to stop in any presentation that fails to comply with the rules established by this policy. So, thank you, sir.
My name is Ron Smith. I live at 3310 Home Lane. I would like for any of you all that are remotely interested in improving Jeffersonville basketball high school to take my phone number or remember where I live on Holmes Lane and give me a call at your convenience. Now, what I would like to tell you is that as I am speaking, we have people who are actively recruiting our players. I mean, what we're not getting rid of ourselves, they are being very actively recruited. And if we're not careful, we don't change that team. We're going to end up with an empty gym. It won't be empty, but it might as well be. We're going to lose a lot of attendance. This past year, and later in the year, I mean, we didn't have a really great record, but we had a lot of problems. I think it was very coach related. That's my opinion. I can't blame him for everything, but I still believe it's very much his fault. Now, if we don't do something to take and turn this situation around, and fairly quick, what we're going to end up with, we're going to end up with a team situation that's going to be destroyed. Okay, you all hired him in an interim situation for the girls. He didn't do very well at that. He was bad. A lot of the parents were very distraught over it. They had players on that team, that girls team. So he comes along, and you all make him the head coach of the boys team. Now, I can't blame you all for maybe being deceived or didn't have enough experience or didn't care enough particularly. And I think it might have been not caring enough to take and really scrutinize these people better than you did. There were candidates that you all failed to recognize. I don't think you gave them much attention, and they would have been far better than the inexperienced individual we got. While he may have good intentions, he's going to drag our program down. Now, let me give you an idea of where we used to be, and I think we could get back there. And it may not be important to you, but money-wise, this is a very important subject. And for our children and the kids that are coming up, they're not always going to do the right thing. But the only shot they've got of getting recognition is to have these parents and the coaches to train these kids and have them playing at their maximum, their optimum. And if you don't, they're not going to get any recognition, and they are not going to get recognition from a college. They're in. I mean, they train themselves from little kids. In a lot of cases, they practice, they play, they give their heart to it, and then they come up and they get into our program, and they're not going to get the attention they deserve. I promise you, they're not getting it. In 1988, we had teams, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. You know what happened in 93? Anyway, we had Dexter to start with, and he had a farm program that he instituted, Mr. Bexton, and fantastic coach. But he set the footwork in place for Mr. Broughton, who had a 9% winning rate. Now, one of those teams under Brett Dixler, and probably a few under Broughton, but we had one team, believe it or not, that averaged 101 points all year. Now, one of these players was on that team, 101 points. They went to semi-state. Now, under Broughton, we won the state championship. But anyway, we are never going to have anything. The attendance was way down the last several games of Jeff this year. I'm going to have to come back and see you people. Anyway, when I went to Seymour, and this is the first time in my life that I have ever been able to walk into a gym in the Jeffersonville section. Now think about this.
Mr. Smith, we'll need you to wrap up, so thank you.
First time in my lifetime that I've ever walked into that gym. And I could have sat almost anywhere I wanted to in the Jeffersonville section, okay? I don't want to see this program be punished the way you guys are letting it get punished. You all voted this guy in, and to be honest with you, I think we need to start looking at recruitment, and we need to get back to some kind of sensibility about what we're going to have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Denton, I believe you're up.
Thank you. Good evening. Happy to be here. Again, policy, as alluded to earlier, this is going to be really more important than it is now. I mean, it's important now, but as things change with state law and our contract, the way we do it changes, policy is going to be very, very important. And one policy in particular is the one that I'm thinking about tonight, which deals with teacher attendance. And there's a lot of unfairness in that. And back in August, we talked about this is my opinion. We talked about revisiting this policy in the year, and halfway through the year we didn't really look at it. So now we're close to the end of the year. We really need to get you to think about this policy on teacher attendance, and some of the parts that go with that. Where even if a teacher has documentation, they're still the absence is unexcused, and that could lead to other things, and sometimes of punishment. And so I'd really like to look at it. I know for cases where it's gone to the PRC committee already, in at least one case, and I don't know all the cases because teachers don't always call me when things are going on. So I'd like to revisit that in our discussion meetings, and I was going to talk about it tomorrow. I have a meeting with Dr. Millen, and contract, and thinking about that also. I know a corporation that actually has this contract, when all the rule changes in Indiana, they had this part of the contract put over into policy, because here boards and administration and teachers have worked for years to get ideas and things in those contracts that they really count on, and then just to throw that out and just deal with pay and benefits is kind of a waste of all that years of experience of building that contract as it is. So some way, and I'll find out more about that we can actually incorporate some of the really important parts of our contract, make it into board policy, so it would be more of a lasting thing. I appreciate you hearing me tonight, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Denton. Okay, next item is board comments. So, Mr. Hall.
Just a couple things. Mr. Smith, thanks for your time tonight. And I know my role on the board from an athletic background, and I'm sure the other board members feel the same way, and I know Dr. Mellon does, is to me, it's win-win. If we want to make Jeffersonville High School the best 4A athletic program, academic program in the state. We want Charlestown High School to be the best 3A program in the state. And we have to support, and we want New Washington High School to be the best 1A program in the state. So that's what I'm about, and that's what I'm going to support. And I'm just a one man on this wagon, but you got my word on that. The other thing, if somebody owes Greater Clark money, I think it's Kevin's lunch money back when he was at high school at Charlestown.
He was my teacher, though, so he probably took it from me for some reason.
All right. Ms. Perkins?
Yes. I want to congratulate our staff and our students and our parents for supporting our intercession. I understand it was successful. I've had some parents call and actually thank me for our vote on providing this for their students, and they think it'll make a big difference, and I do too. And I just think it was the right decision to make, and I'm glad we made it.
Mr. Satterley.
Well, two things. One, maybe three. I don't know. We'll see. It's the 45 minutes. I've gotten a lot of calls that everybody has a couple negatives, but a ton of comments that we thought outside the box to do what you did, so the kids wouldn't be going to school after graduation. You know, one of those scenarios. But anyhow, the intercession too was. I've heard nothing but positive things, especially with the Rocket club that we had. I've heard all kinds about that. And Mr. Smith, I also am with Tony, Mr. Hall, but I just want to address one question. We do care, or we wouldn't be sitting up here. So if you need something, let us know, but we do care.
Right. Ms. Kraft?
Nothing,
Nothing. Thank you. Mr. White?
Just the young lady that was up here in the beginning, to her it was like, what's all the big fuss? To the rest of us it was such an inspiration that she doesn't understand the impact that she has on us as adults when she did what she did, and I really admire her for that.
For those of you that weren't able to attend last night, Teresa and I were able to be there. There was another public hearing on the proposed York Academy Charter School coming to Clark County, and it was interesting. But I just want to let you all know that Dr. Mellon prepared a formal statement on our behalf, and he did an excellent job delivering that, explaining all the programs that we offer, explaining the improvements that we've made, explaining extracurricular opportunities, intercession opportunities, and the main comment that stuck out in my mind is this charter school can't offer anything in addition to or better than what we are currently providing our students. So I just wanted to report, to you all on that, and thank Dr. Mellon for preparing for that. It was very lightly attended and only a few people spoke, but he spoke very well on our behalf. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have anything, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Just a few final comments, Board. On the 14th of April, next Monday, at Utica Elementary, we'll hold a meeting for individuals who will be impacted from a transportation perspective, students who attend Utica and Parkview, who will be impacted by the Utica-Sellersburg road closure as of May 15th. That's going to be closed for 6 months. And our transportation people have done a great job of looking at all the routes impacted, and we'd like to have a public meeting and make sure that all of you are aware of it, and if you're interested in attending, that'd be great. But we'll basically talk briefly about the closure and exactly show a diagram and the timelines, because inside of the Brook Hollow addition, there will be an 18-month closure in the back half of that addition, and so they've had to build a new road that will connect it to Crystal Springs, and so there's been a public hearing out there regarding that. Our issue is we want to make sure people know how bus transportation will be affected. So, Board, we want to make you aware it'll be at 7 o'clock at Utica Elementary next Monday night. The 14th. 7 o'clock. And I'll send a reminder out to you as well, but wanted to give you a heads up to that. And Mr. Watson, our logistics coordinator in transportation, has done a great job, and he'll make the presentation regarding the impact of the different routes. Getting the bridge in and is a great thing, as we all know, but there are going to be inconveniences, and this will be a big one for us for a while. There'll also be a Champions for Children event, an employee recognition banquet. The first time we've done that in our school corporation, at least in, I don't know if it's ever, but maybe ever. We've got great employees here, as you know, and each school has recognized a building level certified staff member of the year and a classified staff member of the year. And then at a central office with our executive team, we've then selected a district level winner from both of those categories. Those individuals will be honored and recognized next Wednesday, the 16th, at Cottage. It'll start with a social activity at 6 o'clock. The dinner will be about 6:30. And the focus of the night is on our great employees. And so I know that you will help me in supporting that event, and our employees are very deserving of it. And we hope it'll be something that will be an annual event moving forward. iRead, you'll hear more at our next board meeting. We'll make a more formal presentation, but our iRead results came back 4% increase in passage over last year. 87% of our students passed on that first go-around, which is a 4.2% increase, I believe, over the previous year. So we're very proud of that fact. Our people are working very hard, and we also believe that there are a number of students who did not pass and just barely didn't pass by maybe just 1 or 2 points. So we We feel that they'll have another chance to be remediated and take the test again in June, and we hope to get that percentage up. Last year, I think we got it up to 91%, and our hope is to go well above that for next school year. And the last thing is the intercession. I appreciate very much you mentioning that. Over 1,200 students took advantage, 127 teachers, administrators at the building level, central office level. I'm very proud of everyone involved, and having the great advantage of getting to all 3 sites and watching students and watching our staff interact and seeing all the great things happening. I'm very proud to be able to be your superintendent, because not many school systems in this state are doing anything like that. And to provide them 40 hours of additional instruction, fall and spring, 20 each time, I mean, it's invaluable. So thank you for that. And we'll have a more detailed report on that at our next board meeting as well. So thank you.
I talked with Superintendent Risk Saturday, and I filled her in on what we were doing and how proud we were, and she thought that was fabulous.
Great.
I thanked her for giving us the opportunity to do what we thought was important just for us.
Right.
Because that was a big part of it. And then she was really excited about what we were doing.
It's good news. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Hall, you're going to lead us on a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. All right. All in favor? All right. Good night.